Russia tonight gathering its troops, artillery, other equipment at its border with Ukraine. Some 80,000 Russian troops, 270 tanks, 140 combat aircraft moved into the area. German Chancellor Angela Merkel warned Russia today about the failed expansionist tactics of the 19th and 20th centuries. She said, quote, "If Russia continues its course of the last weeks, it would not only be a catastrophe for Ukraine, it would massively damage Russia, both economically and politically." Joining us now, Mikheil Saakashvili, who was president of Georgia from 2004 to 2013, senior statesman at Tufts University's Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy. Great to have you with us.
Great to be on your show, Lou.
You have, at least I was about to say the benefit, but the experience of watching Putin move his troops and, in your case, move into the sovereign state of Georgia. Your thoughts as you watch what he is doing in Ukraine? Well,
the numbers are very familiar. I mean, he amassed and came into my country exactly with the same number of troops back in 2008. They bombed us exactly with the same number of planes. That's basically the maximum Russia can mobilize as a land force and as an air force at this moment, except that Ukraine is 10 times bigger country. But for me, it's very much deja vu. I remember my conversation with President Bush back then, and I told him, look, if you don't do something, the Soviet Union, which collapsed on the watch of your father, will be coming back on your watch. And so he was compelled to act. And certainly now the West has to act more than ever.
Yet the two breakaway provinces stayed, and Putin was successful in his, it seems, more limited ambitions then, was he not?
Well, let's see what the end game in Ukraine is. I think it's the same. It was the same in Georgia. It was the same in Ukraine. In Georgia, the end game was to take over our capital. Everybody knew it. Putin declared it. He had exactly the same kind of tactics, some kind of unidentified troops that were clearly identifiable as Russian troops. And as we responded, that saved our statehood, because our sheer size of Ukraine and Georgia is very different. Right. These troops could have taken my capital within 24 hours if we had not responded militarily. By raising stakes, we saved our statehood. We saved our capital. Now, the territory is still under occupation if people have been thrown out, but because at that moment the world acted together, the United States sent its Sixth Fleet through the Bosphorus, and they basically proclaimed that they were starting military humanitarian operation. That worked back then. You know, in the 19th century, basically Western powers sent their fleet to Crimea. There is this thing of deja vu. And back then it was so much superior to Russian fleet that it already by itself sent a message. The same superiority the West has now.
The British also had very bad experiences in attempting to go through the Bosphorus. People need to remember that the Black Sea is really effectively a Russian pond, no matter what others might want to call it. Strategically, it would be a nightmare for the United States, in my judgment, to do so. What I'm curious about is what you think the Ukrainian government should do. It had only been in existence for two months, well, when all of this, 2 days, I should say, when this all began.
I think the Ukrainian government should be very careful, but basically mobilize and brace for the worst, and I think they've been doing that. I've been in constant touch with some of their leaders, and they're aware of the threats. Certainly, this is the government that still will go to the West. They have to implement very fast reforms, and I'm sure there is political will to do now. Now, with regard to military action, nobody's advocating that America should go and put soldiers with boots on their ground. That's out of question at this stage. Mm-hmm. But remember one important thing about Vladimir Putin. He wants to conquer and act like Stalin, but he wants to live like Rockefeller. He's no Stalin. He's no Ahmadinejad. He's no North Korean leader. This guy enjoys nice lifestyle. All his elite is spoiled. I haven't seen Ahmadinejad ministers having, suntan on beaches of Florida lately. Their ministers are doing this all the time. Right. So West should not underestimate the power.
You see the good life as the principal vulnerability then for Putin, for his allies?
Russian economy and his entourage are extremely vulnerable to Western pressure. And I think if this pressure is really applied, if there is no appeasement talk, and there is a lot of different things said that we should get resigned, that's fine. Now Russia has done it. And, well, Russia attacked Georgia five years ago. Now it strikes again. Now it will not be long if the world digests this one, that he will strike again and it will be much faster. So appeasement doesn't work. And the point here is that these guys out there, they have houses up, but they have bank accounts here in the south. They travel all the time. Vladimir Putin's own daughters, they live in Netherlands, for God's sake. They all like Western lifestyle. They commute to Russia to make money, but then they take out this money here. So they don't even keep their money in Russia. So all this, talk that we don't care. They do care, and they're very vulnerable, and it will mark end of Putin if the West applies economic sanctions and visa sanctions now. It will be a nasty process, and it's going to, some Western companies will also suffer. Let's be frank about it. So they're also lobbying for this sanction not to apply. But if they don't want to pay much bigger price later, the Western countries, they have to act now.
You understand the will of this president, this administration. You understand Vladimir Putin and the Russian ambitions. What is the likely outcome as we conclude here?
Well, look, I heard the other day Robert Gates saying that Crimea is lost. It's over. Well, it's not. I remember and he said, Bush administration was willing to apply force, and still Russia invade Georgia. Well, let's be more disciplined with the truth here. American word matters. I remember 2008. After a long discussion with President Bush, he finally sent Sixth Fleet, but there was big discussion inside his administration. Robert Gates was one of the opponents of sending troops. Okay, I understand his motivation, but the problem was that there was this instant when Putin stalled because he didn't know what America's intentions were. He really thought America was serious. And after a week or so, then Secretary of Defense Robert Gates says, well, by the way, we are not going to act militarily. And immediately Putin moved and took another part of Georgia, a place called Khalgori. So it shows you what kind of force America's word has. America should be very careful with its word. America is still very powerful country, at least in the eyes of the Russians. And we should not give Putin at least this feeling that it was just illusion all the way through. He really cares, but he thinks there are lots of other things at stake for America or the West will not act. Well, I think there are lots of leverages you can use, apply, and ultimately it will take care of the situation. But we need to do it now, and I think some of the things are being prepared now, and they're on the right way. At least now there is political consensus in Washington among lawmakers and the administration.
Let's hope for the best possible outcome. Mr. President, good to have you with us.
Very nice to be back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.